Hey guys, Mystic Diamond here, and welcome back to the Mystic Diamond School for those on their path of ascension and going through their process of transcendence. This is class 25, but it is the first for 2019. So a big hi and hello and welcome if you are new, and if you are returning, hello and welcome back. Now you may have spotted a little bit of a difference behind me. I am going to refer to it in just a moment, and you also may be spotting a difference with me standing. This year things are going to be a little bit different. Last year I was sitting down and I had a smaller whiteboard. I've upgraded the whiteboard. It is much bigger in size, which is going to make things a lot easier for us, and I'm going to be standing this year, so that's really good also. But that's not the only change that is coming to us here at the Mystic Diamond School for 2019. The next change is going to be that each week there will be at least one class that is done for everyone. So for today, this will be that class. But moving forward, there are also going to be classes that are going to be done over varying points during the term, let's say. There are going to be varying classes that are going to be done that are wave specific. If you do not know what your wave and divine is, please do not hesitate to email me so that we can work that out together. And once you know what your wave is, I will place you into your wave divine group. Once you're in your wave divine group, you will receive the class that is for your wave. So you will have a general class and you will have a wave class. Now, the plan, is that we're going to have one general and one wave class for you every single week. But if for whatever reason that doesn't work out, then I will just do my best to catch up where and when I can. But that is the plan so far. Alright, so let's move on to our very first class of 2019. Today, we are going to be talking about illusions and quantum pockets. Now, this is something that I have discussed with you guys before. We've certainly talked about this in other videos, but they have not had their own class dedicated to them. We need to talk about these so that we can sort of wrap up this portion, and then we're going to move on to another section where we get into more detail about other things. So, get out your Path of Transcendence journals, pens, everything that you feel you need, and let's get right to it, shall we, as we welcome in the very first class of the Mystic Diamond School for those on the Path of Ascension and Process of Transcendence for 2019. Alright, so we're going to start off with illusions, and here is the basic definition. I'm just going to move out the way so you guys can see. Here is the basic definition of an illusion. Illusions are defined as something that you experience that seems real, but actually isn't. And that is one of the biggest traps that angelics do fall under as they go through their process of transcendence and their path of ascension, is that something will seem real. And so then they'll have a bit of a rah-rah over whatever it is, or they might feel very enticed by whatever it is, but the problem is, and the danger that lies there, is that it isn't real. I take you back to when we were discussing learning to discern. Remember how we spoke there about how you need to learn to discern what is an illusion and what is not. This is very, very, very important, because if we fail to learn to discern what is an illusion and what is actually real, or what is there to witness, or what is there to do something about, we could be in all sorts of trouble, particularly with illusions. The danger with an illusion is that illusions are seemingly perfectly timed and perfectly placed. We will get into more detail as we do move on, but it is very important to keep in mind that you do need to discern whether something is an illusion or not. Now, we'll talk about how to do that as we go throughout this class, but please keep in mind that it is extremely important to know if what you're dealing with is an illusion or not, because if it's an illusion and you're wasting your time on that, you're actually not focusing on what it is that you need to be doing. So, let's get back to the whiteboard. Now, while it is important to note that angelic work is real, it is equally important to know when it seems real, but actually isn't. So, let's come up with a very quick example, shall we? Let's say you're off in a high dimensional level, or at least you think you're off in a high dimensional level, bless. You think you're off doing a high dimensional task, and it turns out it's actually not your task. This is a demonic placing you into an illusion. Now, generally speaking, demonics are the ones that are responsible for illusions. Yes, it does come down to what wave you are, where you're at in your process of transcendence, of course, as well, but most of the time it's demonically done. And so when this does happen, when we feed into this energy, it actually sort of throws us off course. So if it's something as important as a high dimensional task, and say our team, if you've been contracted, or more than likely your higher self, is telling you that you need to go off and do your high dimensional task, you go there and it's an illusion and you're feeding into that, you're actually wasting that time that you need to actually spend working on your actual high dimensional task rather than feeding into this illusion. It's also responsible for a lot of rah-rahs that do occur when it comes to counterparts. We'll get into that as we do continue also. But please make sure that you note it down in your Path of Transcendence journals that an illusion or illusions are defined as something that you experience that seems real but actually isn't. I might just try and get out the light there. You can't really see it that easily, but I hope you can. Anyway, seems real but actually isn't. And while it is important to note that angelic work is real, it is equally important to know when it seems real but actually isn't. Alright, let's move on to the next thing. So, now we're going to talk about a particular type of illusion that you may not have heard of before. I would definitely recommend that you write down this term in your Path of Transcendence journal. And actually, before we do go further to discuss this term, what I would recommend is that at the back of your Path of Transcendence journal, and I've done the same too, so I'll show you guys that I have. At the back of your, so this is my Path of Transcendence journal, on the back, I would recommend that you start up a glossary. Okay, a glossary of terminology of things, just so you can keep an idea of them. Some of the glossary terms that I have included here, and you have to remember that I started this when I was first starting off, include goosebumps, rah-rahs, being put out versus being woken up, clairsentience, triggers, energetic purging, etc, etc, etc. So I would definitely recommend that you set aside a section, especially in the back, because it'll make things a bit easier for you, where you can put up some glossary terminology. Alright, let's head back over to the whiteboard. So one word that you would likely put in there would be quantum shift. Okay? Now, so what is a quantum shift? Well, let's take a look. When an illusion is brought forth in technology, a quantum shift is taking place. Now, an example of this could include you seeing something that you know is not true. For example, we have incorrect time, incorrect contact name, etc. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. Actually, I'll talk to you about it on the side, so you can keep writing this down while I'm talking. So yeah, basically for me, when I first came into a quantum shift, it really freaked me out because I had no idea what was going on. I had unlocked my phone just to do a few things on my phone, and the time was completely incorrect, which was really bizarre. Like, let's say it was midday, it was telling me it was 5 o'clock in the evening, and I was going, well, hang on. This isn't right. Why would it say 5 o'clock in the evening? I haven't done anything. And that's an important thing to note as well. Again, when illusions do come under learning to discern, when we go back to learning to discern, remember to discern, in the case of a quantum shift, have you created the change yourself? Did you actually do something to create this change? Or, like in the physical reality, did you're human? Or is it happening despite you not doing anything to it? That is what the quantum shift is. So yeah, I was like, why is it saying 5 o'clock? This is weird. It's midday, like, you know. And another great example was incorrect contact name. Absolutely, yeah. So, my first wave of friend, her name and phone number were in my phone. And yeah, this was very surprising to me too. Somehow the name, the contact name, had actually been deleted. And it took me a little while to work out which number is hers. Ultimately, I did end up finding it in the messages that we'd sent to each other and work out which one was hers. But yeah, her contact name had completely gone. Or, here's an example that you may come across that I did not. It could be an incorrect contact name. So, it could be that, just to list off names of family members. You might have mum, dad, brother, sister in your phone, and you go to contact mum, and brother picks up, and you go, well, hi, brother, I actually didn't mean to call you. I meant to call mum. Wait, it says mum. Why you pick up mum's phone? Mother says, no, this is my phone. It's always been my phone. Yeah, lovely little quantum shift there. Okay, now this does, it gets to humans more and more, or yeah, humans, absolutely, but for our human vessel, more and more when it comes to professional things. So let's say that you are trying to call your, I don't know, trying to call your friend to pick you up because you're completely drunk. Now, that wouldn't be the case for me, but let's just say it was for you. You're calling your friend because you're completely smashed and you need to get home. You've got no way to get home. So you call your friend and your boss picks up and says, why are you calling me? We don't start work until tomorrow. Like, you know, it's downtime now. Why are you calling me? And you think, oh my god, I called my boss. What? Yeah. So that would be cause for concern. You know, or the other way around. You're trying to call your boss, but you're getting your friend instead, or your boss's number is suddenly deleted from your phone, and you didn't do that. Quantum shift. Okay? Now, absolutely, yeah, higher self is coming through saying, yeah, you would do good to check in with your higher self to determine if it is a quantum shift, because, you know, if, say, you don't have if we're just going on with phone for the moment, say you don't have a PIN code on your phone, and someone else in your house or somewhere else has picked up your phone and made the change, obviously that's not a quantum shift, that's them doing it. Let's hope they don't do that. It's completely rude, but, you know, we have to be realistic, this sort of things do happen, but if it wasn't someone else in the physical reality and it wasn't you, then it is a quantum shift. And this is certainly something to keep in mind. So do keep this in mind as you do move forward. Now, a quantum shift is exactly like shifting in and of itself. So you know how we've spoken about personal shifting. When you go through personal shifting, a quantum shift is when everyone goes through shifting all at once at the same time. Okay, so generally speaking, quantum shifts will occur when we collapse our timeline. So I'm just going to make a note on that. Occurs when we collapse out timelines. Yeah, just a very quick note there so that you have that, so you can write that down as well. So, yes, there are times where we individualistically close out a timeline. So let's say we're closing out the torture timeline just for ourselves. That's fine. What I'm referring to here is when timelines are collapsed out all over amongst angelic. So let's say that for every angelic, the torture timeline has been collapsed out. It's very rare that a timeline is going to be collapsed out for every single angelic. However, when this does happen, you expect something to happen energetically. And so when this happens, that it collapses out for everyone, you would expect a quantum shift to take place. Because something has to happen, there has to be some sort of reaction to the action that has happened. So the action that's happened is, it's collapsed for everyone. Wow, like... It's no longer there. What's going on? So there's a quantum shift that's occurred, okay? In order for the timeline to collapse out, and the timeline collapsing out creates it. So it goes back and forth, okay? Alright, we'll be right back. Alright, so let's keep moving on. Now it is important to note that if you can poke holes in what you are being presented with, then it is an illusion. I'm going to say that again because it's very important to know. If you can poke holes in what you are being presented with, then it is an illusion. Now we're going to go through an example here that I've put up for you guys, and this will hopefully help you to learn how to poke holes in things. And what you're going to, well, what the hope is that you move forward from now on with everything that you do, even if you take 5 seconds to just try and poke a few holes, see if you can, because the bottom line is if you can't poke holes in it, it is real. But if you can poke holes in it, it is an illusion. Let's take a look at this thing over here, okay? Now, these are facts that you know to be true. We've got a biography of a person here. Name, Mary White. Age, 18. Hair colour, brown. Eyes, blue. Study that for a moment. Now let's take a look at the illusion. We have Mary White. Mary White, Mary White. Is there a difference between the two? Take a look. Is there a difference between the Mary White on the left and the Mary White on the right? Now normally, we wouldn't think too much about this. Normally, what would happen is we would go, yeah, Mary White, perfect, Mary White, great, thank you Mary White, have a nice day. Sorry, I'm out of screen. Thank you Mary White, have a nice day. But no, not the case. What you may have noticed is different is that the illusion has placed a Y in Mary's surname. Straight away, this Y is a hole. Because what we know to be true is that Mary White's surname is spelt W-H-I-T-E. And it is now being spelt W-H-Y-T-E. Immediately we know this is an illusion. We don't even need to go further because we've poked a hole. One poking hole does an illusion make. If you cannot poke any holes, that's when it's not an illusion. But let's move to the next thing. Okay, so age of Mary White is 18. We know that. Age of Mary White is 80, right? So yeah, okay, excellent. She's 18. Yeah, wonderful. No. Mary White is 18. She is not 80. The illusion is suddenly making Mary White a senior. Which, there's no problems with being a senior, obviously, but they've aged Mary White very, very quickly. Suddenly, overnight, well, seemingly. She's become an 80-year-old. No. She's 18. There's a second hole. So we know for sure this is an illusion. Now, if you were doing a higher dimensional task, or if you were on a high dimensional level doing something and you've already poked 2 holes, it's an illusion. You know it's an illusion, you've determined this already. But because this is an example, I will keep going. But as I said, if you can poke even 1 hole into something, you know it's an illusion. And the next step will be to get yourself out of there. Okay, now the best way to get yourself out of an illusion that's occurring on high dimensional levels is to call it out for what it is. That's what I've found. I will call it out for what it is and say, well, hang on, no, this is an illusion. This isn't even real. Because I can, and then you go on, because I can poke this hole, and that hole, and that hole, and that's nowhere near true. I don't even know where that came from. None of this is real because I can poke a million holes into it, but all I need is the one. This is not real. When this happened to me, I will go on with this in a moment, but just to give you that personal example, when this happened to me the first time, I was in the Soul Matrix. I was doing high dimensional work because it was contracted of me to do so. Not always the case, but for me, yes. Bless it. So, I thought that I had gone off to see my counterpart. This was back in the early days before I met my counterpart, believe you me. Went off to meet my counterpart and I was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you, and, you know, having a nice time with my counterpart. And then there were some holes that I was able to poke. There were certain things that I did know about my counterpart. While I hadn't met my counterpart's soul in the higher dimensions, there were things that I had already come to know because I had spoken to my counterpart through clairaudience. You know, I had done things through my other clairs that I knew. And there were just a ton of things that were not adding up with this counterpart. So, when I worked that out, got to admit, I'll be honest, I was in a bit of a compromising position, but we'll let that go. Actually, no, we won't let that go, because I'm probably drawing a better picture in your mind than what it actually is. We were kissing, so let's just put it there. We were kissing at the time, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're not my counterpart. And yeah, this illusion, bless it, it definitely was demonic. Illusion was going, what are you talking about? Yes, I am. Of course I am. Oh, it's okay. Calm down. I am your counterpart. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not my counterpart. And I'm just going to confirm this with my team. Guys, this is not my counterpart, is it? My team was saying, no, it's not. Well done. You've worked it out. I'm going, yeah, I know you're not. And of course, I'm going to always side with my team. You are not my counterpart. You're an illusion. Guys, let's go. So straight away to my team. Guys, let's go. Get me out of here, so to say. You will find that if you ask to be taken away from something, and if it's an illusion, and you have accurately determined that it's an illusion, that you will be taken out of that illusion, okay? If you ask for it, Okay, guys, I know this is an illusion because of this, get me out of here. And they'll get you out of there right away. Alright, next thing. Hair is brown. Hair is brown. Once again, there's another hole. And finally, eyes are blue. Eyes are blue? Yeah, absolutely. Sounds exactly the same. Eyes are blue, eyes are blue. But eyes are blue. B-L-U-E, not B-L-O-O. And so this is what we do. We poke these holes. And the reason I'm spending a lot of time on this is because it's giving you the example of what you need to do. Whenever you go into the next thing you go into, whatever it is, whether it's something that's coming through to you through one of your clairs into the physical reality, so it could be claircognizance, clairaudience, whatever it is. Poke that hole into it, okay? Clairsentience, great example. Oh, I feel a pain on my arm. You look down your arm and you're seeing a physical sign of something for a reason why you're in pain. So, I don't know, you could be seeing a really big scratch mark on your arm in the physical reality. Oh, well clearly that's not clairsentience because it actually happened in the physical reality. So there's a hole you're poking into clairsentience. Okay? Poke those holes. Because if you don't poke those holes, guys, here's what. You know, you end up going off in the illusion. And while the illusion, some of the time the illusion is going to be very enticing, like it was with my counterpart. This guy was too good to be true. It turned out he was. But yeah, you know, if I kept going with that counterpart, oh, things would have gone a bit interestingly, because this was not my counterpart, this was someone else completely different. And also the rah-rahs that we have when illusions are terrible, you know, not terrible, but are harder to deal with because they're painful to deal with. Okay, so maybe Mary White, to give an example, maybe Mary White is your counterpart. Okay, and let's add here, no, let's add it in blue. No kids. One child. Clearly, we know, because we're looking at this neutrally, if you're in the, go this way, neutrally if you're in the soul matrix, neutrally if you're in the monad, patiently if you're in the soul matrix, because that's what we need to do. Now that we've done that, we've determined, well, this is clearly a hole because Mary doesn't have children. We know that Mary doesn't have a child. So this is an illusion. Let's say this is the only hole you can poke, that everything else lines up. You know Mary doesn't have kids. So the fact that you're seeing something that says Mary has a child, this is an illusion. You can poke that hole because you know Mary doesn't have a child. One of the biggest reasons why people do worry and get concerned about their counterparts, and bless their human, because their human wants to research their counterpart online, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, on some form of social media, which I don't advise you to do. At the end of the day, your counterpart is here to work with you when they are meant to energetically, not in the physical reality. So, you know, I don't advise it, but if you do, you know, you'll come across that and you'll be like, oh my god, she has a kid. No. In this case, no, she doesn't have a kid. This is a complete illusion that you're coming into. So sometimes the illusions can be avoided, is another point Higher Self is making. If you didn't do this research in the first place, you wouldn't have come across this, you wouldn't have had this rah-rah. So keep in mind, before you have a rah-rah, or before you move into something that looks really enticing, before you move into anything that you come into, try to poke holes. If you can poke holes in it, it is an illusion. If you can't poke holes into it, then it is real. Okay, so what do you do moving forward? Well, whenever you come into something, take a step back and see if you can poke holes. Okay? If yes, then it's an illusion, and if no, then it is real. And please make sure you do that, guys. I know that it makes things a little tougher, having that additional step, and I do get that. But once you get into the habit of doing it, you'll just keep doing it from then on. So, you know, say you're taken away somewhere, boom, you land there, you take 2 seconds to step back. Okay, Is this real? Just having a quick look. Okay, can I poke any holes? No, I can't. This is real. Take 2. Okay, you're taken somewhere. Okay, just gonna take a moment, step back. Can I poke? Oh, that's not true. This is an illusion. Guys, get me out of here. That's an illusion. I know it is because there's the hole. Take me out of here. Okay? Make sure you do that. Because bless the demonics. Look, we had this play out quite a few times, you know, for everyone. All the angelics, that the demonics tried to infiltrate this, that, the other. Demonic infiltration is a really big thing, whether it is demonics infiltrating people, places, things, tasks, dimensions, situations, to bring about illusions. It's always the same goal. The demonics want to bring about illusions, and the reason they want to bring about illusions is to basically pull you off the path. They want you focusing on something else as opposed to what you need to be focusing on. And so because of that, learning to discern it becomes very important. Make sure you take the time to poke the holes in the situation. Can you poke the holes? Can you not poke the holes? If not, wonderful, keep going. If yes, make the request, get me out of here because that's a hole, this is an illusion. Okay? Alright, so now to the final part on illusions. Cloned counterparts. Now, we're not going to go into too much detail about this because I am going to do my next class on elaborating a little more on that, but I need to bring this up here because it fits into the category of illusions as well. Now, clone counterparts, as it says on the whiteboard, yes, they absolutely exist. Swapping of ID codes to be discussed. So we're going to do a class on swapping of ID codes, which is very important for you to be aware of, that it has happened, that it could happen again, you know, and what all that involves. But yeah, basically, cloned counterparts, swapping of ID codes, basically it is the illusion that someone else is your counterpart. Now, this is not what I was referring to earlier with me, where I was placed into an illusion scenario. The illusion is the counterpart themselves. My illusion in that case was the scenario. Yes, the counterpart was one too, but the whole scenario was an illusion. This is referring to the counterpart themselves. It's very confusing, it's very technical. We will discuss that next time, but it's good to take note of it here. That cloned counterparts indeed. Cloned counterparts, bless, do exist. Now, once you have met your counterpart energetically, you will be able to poke holes in their names, looks, characteristics, basically anything you know about them, you can use to poke those holes to determine if you are dealing with a cloned counterpart. Okay, so keep that in mind. Make sure to write those notes here, because this is the space where you're writing notes on illusions. Okay, as I say, we will go into more detail, but it's good to have these here under the category of illusions. Okay? And once you have poked those holes with names, looks and characteristics and whatever else it is you know about your counterpart, is it how it is meant to be? Are they how they're meant to be? No? Then they're a cloned counterpart. Yes? Then they are your actual counterpart. Remember, the big point at the end of this class, learning to discern what is an illusion and what is real will keep you on your path and keep you safe. And these are the two main reasons why we need to learn to discern what is an illusion and what is not. Okay? To keep you on your path, absolutely. If you keep going and chasing the rabbit down the hole of the illusion, it is going to eventually take you off your path. So you need to determine, is this an illusion? Is it real? Not getting paranoid, just being mindful, just poking those holes. Okay? So this is not something to stress about too much. It's more of a, just take 5 seconds, can I poke holes here? No, I can't. Great. This is, this is actually what I'm meant to be doing. Can I poke holes here? Okay, this is an illusion. I need to separate myself from this. However you do. So if it's higher dimensionally, you request your guide team, higher self, whatever it is. Okay, I know it's an illusion because of this, get me out of here, and they will. If it's an illusion that's being presented to you in the physical reality, then you just walk away from it. Remember, Soul Matrix, patience, with patience, you walk away from it, and in the monad, with neutrality. Okay, remember Mary White? Okay, Soul Matrix, it's fine, it was an illusion, I just have to be patient, and, I know that the real thing will come very soon. Monad, neutrality. Oh, it's an illusion. It is what it is. It was an illusion. It's part of my process. Okay? Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. Now, I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to pause the class, but what you guys can do is you can feel free to pause it too and go off and have a break if you want, a 5-10 minute break, because when we come back we're going to be discussing quantum pockets. So, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Okay guys, what I've actually decided to do during the break is that I'm going to stop this class and open up another one. I'm going to do another video for quantum pockets just to make things a bit easier. So I'll stop the video now. If you haven't taken your break, go and take your break. And then when we come back, we're moving on to quantum pockets. Okay, I'll see you very soon.